For most people, the start of the new year is supposed to be all about positive change. Resolutions to cut out unhealthy habits, perhaps a big move for a change of scenery, maybe even quitting your job. Well, unless you're limited run games, that is. Limited Run has had a pretty rough go at it over the past few months, and it's been incredibly frustrating to watch fold out. As someone who's always been on the sidelines, silently cheering on this small game company wading in the turbulent waters of the video game industry, watching their mismanagement, quality concerns, and a general lack of direction has caused me to start pulling away from the company I once thought so highly of. But I'm not making this video just to crap all over Limited Run, because on paper, Limited Run Games is a fantastic idea. Limited Run started out in October 2015 with the intent of creating physical versions of digital-only games, preserving their content for as long as physical media can be played. Their early releases of Breach and Clear, Octodad Deadliest Catch, and Shantae Risky's Revenge proved that people want physical media, and that a company with the sole purpose of providing that for people isn't completely unfeasible. In addition to standard physical editions for games, Limited Run would also branch out and become one of the go-to companies for game developers when creating collector's editions for their games. Some of their biggest successes have been their collector's editions for Celeste, Yooka-Laylee, and Scott Pilgrim. For the first few years, this is kind of how Limited Run operated, primarily putting out physical editions for smaller indie games, with the infrequent big collector's edition coming out once or twice a year. For the size of the company, scope of their projects, and how much attention they had at this point, things were working out great for them. They had an important foothold in an industry that is rapidly evolving away from physical media, and for a lot of people, me included, their message about physically preserving media seemed far more important than any game they put out, whether people actually liked it or not. Around this time is when I got off the sidelines, when Limited Run opened up a physical game store here in North Carolina. That mission of game preservation suddenly felt a lot closer to home. In 2022, Limited Run made the surprising decision to open up a physical store in Cary, North Carolina, a place for them to not only sell overstock of their own games, but also for other people to come in and sell their old games. This turned the store from one solely focused on Limited Run, their games, and their cause, into a place where anyone, whether they know the company or not, can enjoy all sorts of games, merchandise, and the vaporwave aesthetic that drowns the entire store in 80s nostalgia. As a native North Carolinian, you don't understand how monumental this was. There aren't a ton of game stores here, despite being the 9th most populated state in the country. If you're looking to get a game physically or browse any retro games, you're either stuck going to GameStop or one of the million dime a dozen pawn shops we have here. There aren't many spaces exclusively dedicated to games, and if there are, they're usually a 2-hour drive away. So having an actual game store in the middle of the state, with huge libraries of pre-owned games, a style to match the games put on display, and people who actually care about and who are dying to talk about the medium, it creates an environment that any person who's into video games would relish being a part of. At that point, my support for Limited Run stopped being passive and started becoming habitual. If they announced something I cared about, I trusted them with it. If a collector's edition caught my eye, I didn't really hesitate. I told myself they'd earned that trust through consistency, through visibility, through literally planting their flag in the real world. And honestly, when a company feels that tangible, it's easy to assume they've got everything under control behind the scenes, that if something goes wrong, it's the exception, not an expectation. But that consumer goodwill doesn't last forever. When Limited Run first announced they'd be collaborating with Persona in late 2023, it got me, and presumably tons of other people, excited. This was their biggest partnership up to this point, so these physical, deluxe, and collector's editions needed to be the highest quality they possibly could be. With me being a Persona fan, I of course had to order the collector's edition for both games, but something must have gone wrong in production, because the estimated 8 to 9 months of waiting I expected turned into over a year's worth of excitement, waiting, frustration, and eventually apathy. The first orders started going out in February of 2025, several months after the expected delivery date. While the product was good, incredible even, the delays turned receiving these special editions from a moment of celebration to a cause for future concern. Delays happen, but this many delays in such a short period of time for two of their biggest collaborations? It's not a great sign. And throughout the process, Limited Run wasn't much help. This has been a common sight as of late with the company. You go to Reddit and read stories of people who have reached out to Limited Run support only for radio silence on the other end. You see swaths of canceled orders for many different games, people being sick of the endless delays, even the company themselves admitting to their own faults in production. It's like any chance there was for something to go wrong, it did. It wasn't a catastrophic failure, but small, repeated disappointments. But at least we're still getting the same high quality we can expect from Limited Run, right? In late 2024, Limited Run Games finally started rolling out copies of the Sonic X Shadow Generations collector's editions that they had announced upwards of over 16 months prior. The collection was actually something I was looking forward to, but couldn't purchase since I needed to be smart with my money. It was to come with a game, an art book, the soundtrack, some small little tchotchkes, and the big display piece, this statue of Sonic and Shadow standing on top of a Dreamcast. This is undoubtedly cool, and if it were to have the same quality as my Persona merchandise from them, it was gonna be a good collector's edition. But of course, along the way, more delays, more letdowns, and finally, when people started receiving their orders nearly a year and a half later, they started getting these. Now, if I had paid over $200 and waited over a year with numerous delays and setbacks, and this is what I'd gotten, I'd want an immediate refund. And it wasn't just Sonic. Their compendium for the Yakuza titles not only came out far later than anything they've ever released, but even it has quality issues. Multiple products from collaborations with big developers continue to show a lack of care and a lack of polish. This is not what you want your company to be known for. It erodes the trust that you've earned from both your diehard consumers like me and the companies that choose to partner with you, since it reflects badly on them too. These quality issues have only really started to pop up over the past year. Past Limited Run collector's editions might have been delayed, if anything, but the products that you'd receive would undoubtedly be high quality. But it's like that totally changed over the past year, and I think I might know why. A concerning pattern I've noticed for Limited Run is that they really like to announce new products. New collaboration with Persona, then Sonic, then Yakuza. These were all within such a relatively short period of time. But before they could even start delivering on the Persona editions, they started taking pre-orders for Sonic X Shadow Generations. And before they could even get those out, they're accepting pre-orders for a Sonic Racing Crossworlds Collector's Edition. And for each one of these products, there's been a lack of communication and delays. It's as if the company is far more concerned with generating hype and getting those pre-orders, rather than actually putting out the products they've already promised and focused on making sure those products are good. At some point, Limited Run stopped feeling like a company designed for preservation and transformed into one more concerned with big collaborations, a large number of projects being worked on simultaneously, and a company that cares more about pre-orders than anything else. One of the first times I saw this was after I initially ordered the collector's edition for Persona 4. Mistakenly, my card had been charged twice for the order, with two identical statements from Limited Run in my bank activity. So, obviously, I contacted them in hopes to fix it. It was only after 2 weeks where I heard back from them and was refunded the amount for the second transaction. And that's really not how you should handle customer service relations. Imagine if I had a medical emergency or a bill that needed to be paid, and all of a sudden I don't have that money because not only did Limited Run mistakenly charge me twice, but now they can't even get back to me about making the situation right. This was 2 years ago, so things might be different now. But from reading stories on Twitter and Reddit, it seems like it's only gotten worse. If their quality assurance, customer relations, and overall workflow and timeliness hasn't raised some alarms for you, there's a bit more going on with the company. As of January 1st, 2026, Limited Run Games co-founder Josh Fairhurst announced he's stepping away from the company. On top of that, the company is now facing an investigation, which alleges they sold customer data relating to some of the videos present on their site and YouTube channel. I'm not going to speak much on either of these, as there's still a lot of information coming out in regards to both. But can I just say, this is kind of the worst position you can find yourself in, when you're already expected to roll out some more big products early in this year. It's getting harder and harder to justify purchasing memorabilia from them. Other companies like IM8bit, Fangamer, among many others, have entered into the collector's edition space, producing exclusive materials for partnered games like records, plushies, and any of the other small things that you'd want to purchase for your favorite games. On top of that, these companies have shown a higher quality to their work, with far less production mishaps, delays, and quality issues. So where does Limited Run go now? I mean, this isn't a company I want to see just dissipate. It's nice having a company focused on creating physical editions for smaller niche indie games. Just recently, they announced physical versions for Hi-Fi Rush, and this is the kind of stuff I love to see from them, allowing more and more people to have physical copies of these proven indie games, which makes me kind of surprised they didn't do it with Bomb Rush Cyberpunk as well. But you can't keep splitting attention between 10 to 20 smaller indie titles, as well as anywhere from 5 to 10 beefy collector's editions. That is way too much work for a quote-unquote small company to handle in just a year. And obviously, their way of doing things up until this point has been bad for every facet of their business. So, what now? I've always thought that Limited Run works best when it's working with smaller developers who just want their games to be seen on shelves. Celeste, Yooka-Laylee, Hi-Fi Rush now. These are all the kind of titles that Limited Run could see consistent success from producing reliable physical versions of. I get that the company is called Limited Run, but now that they're not currently selling physical editions for games like Animal Well, Penny's Big Breakaway, or High on Life, I'm far more inclined to buy these games digitally, taking away my experience of buying a physical copy and a customer for Limited Run. I think they need to take a step back and really reconsider the kinds of games they're making physical editions for. Always having copies of games that people will want, like the ones listed before, is gonna succeed for them far more than having copies of games like Gradius Origins, Kingdoms and Castles, Super Sammy Roll? Oh, okay, what the heck? These are games that just sit in their physical store, and no one really buys them. It's a waste of the investment that went into creating them. If they focus their attention on a handful of small titles that have succeeded, things like Penny's Big Breakaway, Animal Well, they'll likely have more long-term success, since people are always going to want these games. And definitely dial back the number of collector's editions. They're getting delayed, there's quality issues, just take it down a notch. You don't need to partner with every company that comes your way, especially since the final products have been making both parties look bad. I really do wish the best for Limited Run, despite all that's going on behind the scenes. Hopefully all the changes happening to the company this early into 2026 will help them get back on track and become more focused with the products they put out. Thank you for watching.